Order, please. Before we begin this afternoon, I'd like to welcome members from the St. Teresa Chorus. They are visiting this afternoon for a member statement. Welcome.
Here, here.
Today were statements by the honourable members for the districts of Lake Millville, Mount Pearl Southlands, Mount Pearl North, Placentia West Bellevue, and St. John's Centre. The Honourable the member for Lake Millville.
Speaker, with the spring sitting of the legislature winding down, so too is my own political career. I have treasured every day in this special place. It is an honour to serve the people of Lake Millville and the people of Newfoundland and Labrador. While I could stand here for a long time thanking those whom I've worked with, there are some that I need to acknowledge in particular. The House of Assembly staff, from present to past speakers, clerks and other capable staff, the civil service at all levels who care about this province and are working hard to make a difference. The late Larry Weatherby, who accompanied me on the historic trip to Gallipoli, Turkey. 3 premiers and all MHAs over the last 10 years who have done their best to represent their constituents. Diane Randall, Cyril Parsons, and Jim Locke in particular, and others in the government member's office, and Bonnie Learning, my super awesome constituency assistant, who's done much more than just run the office. I know this will sink in when the fall session begins and I become one of those many viewers instead of a legislator. A final thank you goes to my wife, Caroline Hahn, who was an amazing partner on this adventure that I miss very much. Adieu.
The Honourable member for Mount Pearl Southlands.
Thank you, Speaker. I recently had the honour to join Premier Fury to present one of the greatest community volunteers I've ever known, Mr. Gerald Coombs, with a King Charles III Coronation Medal. Gerald's volunteerism has impacted people far beyond our borders. Through various outreach programs, he has aided people as far away as Haiti, Uganda, Syria, and Ukraine. For 53 years, Gerald has been a member of the Mount Pearl Lions Club, serving as Treasurer, Secretary, and President. In that time, he has been involved with numerous initiatives, such as the Mount Pearl Youth Opportunity Fund Program, the Lions Club Santa Claus Parade, the Frosty Festival, and the Youth Eyeglass Collection Program, just to name a few. In the last 10 years, he has collected 40,000 pairs of glasses, providing the gift of sight to those in need. Gerald has received the VOCM Cares Volunteer of the Year Award, the Mount Pearl Citizen of the Year Award, and Lifetime Achievement Award. He is also a recipient of the Melvin Jones Award, the highest honour to be bestowed on any Lion, and is this year's Mount Pearl Lion of the Year. I ask all honourable members to join me in thanking Gerald for his commitment to community and passion for helping others. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable the member for Mount Pearl North.
Speaker, last week I had the opportunity to attend this year's Focus on Youth Awards for the City of Mount Pearl. What amazing talent we have in our community. This year award winners are Youth of the Year, Emily Neville and Fallon McLeod. Sports Team of the Year, the Mount Pearl Paradise Skating Club. Adult of the Year, Jordan Flynn and Fallon McLeod. STEM Award, Ian Cole. Visual Arts Award, Vera Katsinarik. Literacy Arts Award, Rachel Sperl. Performing Arts Award Group, the cast and crew of the play Cinderella. Performing Arts Award Individual, Alex Taylor. Youth Group of the Year, the Mount Pearl Senior High Student Council. Youth in Service Award, Alex Taylor. Volunteer of the Year Award, Alex Taylor. Speaker, I ask all members to join me in saying congratulations to all who have been selected.
The Honourable member for Placentia West Bellevue.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, today I rise in this honourable House to recognize a riding club dedicated to fundraising in our beautiful district of Placentia West Bellevue. The Islanders Riding Club are a group with a passion for motorcycles and assisting people in need. Their dozen members support many charities through rides and events across our province. They've had great successes with their own events, including the TIRC Toy Drive, where they sponsored local families and donated over 8,000 in toys to the Arnold's Cove Salvation Army for those in need at Christmas time. Supported a young man and his family get outfitted for the school season, and a Christmas fundraiser for the Gathering Place, in which they were able to purchase and donate $10,000 worth of clothing and essentials. This summer, they will be having their second annual Dale Penny Memorial Ride. This event is in Dale's memory, and the proceeds will support his young family and mental health awareness. And they will also be hosting the Clarenville Bike Night, in which the proceeds will assist other local charities. Speaker, I ask all honourable members to join me in showing appreciation to this club's great fundraising accomplishments and wish them all the best in their future endeavours. Thank you, Speaker.
The Honourable Member St. John's Centre.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, Edgar Winter said music is very spiritual. It has the power to bring people together. And that's what St. Teresa's Chorus, directed by Noreen Green-Fraze, is doing. St. Teresa's Chorus, composed primarily of seniors, has been invited by the parish of St. Joseph and Benildus in Waterford City, Ireland, to sing with their choir. This is particularly poignant since St. John's is twinned with Waterford City, and many Newfoundland and Labradorians have roots in this area. The two choirs will collaborate on repertoire and interpretation, and in return, the St. Joseph and Benildus Choir will visit Newfoundland and Labrador to experience our beautiful province and our shared musical heritage. Since receiving the Waterford City invitation, St. Teresa's Choir has been invited to perform and present at parishes in Limerick and Dublin. The choir will also present From the Rock to the Emerald Isle, a program of Newfoundland and Irish song and story to local schools and the general public from Cork to Galway. Speaker, in a world where many forces divide us, these choirs will strengthen the ties between our province and Ireland through their love of their traditional music and song. Please join me in wishing them every success.
Statements by ministers. The Honourable Minister responsible for status of persons with disabilities.
Speaker, I am pleased to rise today to highlight Newfoundland and Labrador Disability Benefit, which will help work towards basic income for persons with disabilities. Our government is committed to an inclusive and accessible province. Through the implementation of the Newfoundland and Labrador Disability Benefit, we are strengthening financial supports for persons with disabilities living with low income. The benefit includes up to $400 per month and $1,200 annually contribution to a person's registered disability savings plan to those who qualify. Combined, this benefit provides significant improvements to the financial security for persons with disabilities and low income. To help people better understand how they can avail of this benefit, the Department of Families and Affordability recently offered 5 virtual information sessions which were very well attended and well received. To broaden that reach, we are planning a series of in-person information sessions to ensure Newfoundlanders and Labradorians receive first-hand information. Offered in collaboration with government and community organizations, these sessions provide one-on-one navigation support to help people access these benefits. Speaker, we have and we will continue to take action and make investment that will contribute to building a province that is inclusive, accessible, and equitable. Thank you.
Here, here.
The Honourable Member Harbour Main.
I thank the Minister for an advanced copy of the statement. Today, we acknowledge the introduction of the Newfoundland and Labrador Disability Benefit, which was announced almost 1 year ago as a positive step towards improving financial support for individuals with disabilities. However, we must recognize the significant barriers that individuals face in accessing these benefits. Many disability advocates, including those from local organizations, have expressed concern about the application process being tied to the federal disability tax credit, leaving some eligible individuals without access to the vital $400 monthly benefit. Furthermore, the requirement for medical documentation can create additional barriers for those already facing challenges. It is essential to ensure that the process is inclusive and accessible for all individuals with disabilities, who represent over 30% of our province's population. It is crucial that the government follow through on providing additional support for our disability community and eliminate the systemic issues they face. Thank you.
The Honourable the Leader of the Third Party.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I thank the Minister for an advanced copy of the statement, and once again, we have the kernel of a great program, only for this government to fumble the implementation. The application process is cumbersome and the rules for qualifying are too restrictive, so many are left out of the program. We therefore urge government to revisit how it provides the benefits so that it reaches more of the people it's actually meant to help. Thank you.
Are there any further statements by ministers? Oral questions. The Honourable the Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I've been written recently by a group of parents with children with autism who outlined the failure of the Liberal government to early diagnosis and treatment. Speaker, these parents tell me their children are waiting in excess of 2.5 years to be diagnosed, which means they get no intervention at the critical early developmental period. Speaker, why is this acceptable?
The Honourable the Minister of Health and Community Services.
Thank you, Speaker. And an important issue that we do recognize that there are some challenges in getting children assessed, but I would remind everybody that an assessment or a diagnosis does not determine the interventions or early intervention that is required. We do have policies in place that once a measure is or a challenge is identified, that there can be measures implemented. This can happen through our early childhood windows in some of our early childhood centres, or it can happen in our school system. If a teacher or support person identifies that a child has a particular need, then supports can be put in place immediately. So no one is waiting for a specific diagnosis to offer supports to our children.
The Honourable the Leader of the Official Opposition.
Speaker, these parents, unfortunately, are not getting that support. They're not feeling that support. They're talking about 2.5 years. They're not making this up. They're living it. They're living it. And it's too late to wait until school starts. Speaker, the Canadian Pediatric Society recommends a 3 to 6 month diagnostic window. Again, I ask, why is 2.5 years acceptable to the Minister?
The Honourable the Minister of Health and Community Services.
Thank you, Speaker. And the member opposite and I agree that 2.5-year wait for a diagnosis is certainly not an acceptable time frame. That's why we're making every effort to improve the capacity to test and to have these resources available, and as well as a central intake. So in the coming days, there is a plan that is underway here in between the Department of Education, Department of Health, and the Department of Families that we're working on, and we've talked about it before. It's our Child and Youth Community Health Model. It is a wraparound support model that we will be introducing that will provide access points for children along the continuum of their growth and development, and then children will be able to enter in some of their earlier stages, or if in the event that they had been further along their developmental journey, they can enter the system at that point.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
10 years, Speaker. 10 years this Liberal government has been in power. 10 years we've been talking about doing things, and here we are in the 10th year still talking about what they plan on doing. Meanwhile, these children have been waiting for more than 2.5 years in order to get what services they need. Speaker, the parents say speech-language therapy and occupational therapy have an 18 to 24-month wait time. Speaker, without therapy, children with autism cannot communicate and build those social connections. I ask the Minister, How is this inclusion?
The Honourable Minister of Health and Community Services.
Thank you, Speaker. And as I said in my previous answer, we do recognize that there are challenges in getting access for some of these specialized services. So that's a very important piece of our recruitment and retention plan. I know we often talk a lot about our nurses and our doctors, but there are also other allied health professionals who are very, very integral to the implementation of the plan of supports for our children. So that as part of our recruitment and retention, we're focusing on those areas as well. And as I said, when we look at a model that addresses the whole spectrum of children from their early years right into their teenage years, these are services that we are implementing through a child health model where you won't have to rely on a doctor's visit or a specific visit to a clinic in order to provide those services, but they'll be available in wraparound supports throughout different access points in the community.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Speaker, again, I say 10 years of Liberal government, and now they finally recognize that there is an issue. After 10 years, they recognize the issue. Speaker, according to these parents who are living this every day, the child care inclusion policy and the Autism Action Plan are not meeting the needs of children with autism. 5 years after the plan was launched, 5 years, we are not meeting national standards and there is no public accountability and performance monitoring. Many of the action plans, of the Autism Action Plans, have not been implemented. Are we waiting for another human rights complaint? When will we actually meet national standards?
Great question.
The Honourable Minister of Health and Community Services.
Thank you, Speaker. And I recognize the member opposite has brought up an issue of inclusion and supports. And in my previous role, I had the opportunity to hear those stories firsthand, and certainly had many conversations with the support staff who provide those services to children day in and day out. We recognize that there has to be an infusion in the system of some increased supports, which is why this budget does just that. In our classroom settings, we've got an additional 400 resources now that will be allocated to provide additional support. But we also recognize that there are broader challenges, and we're looking at how we can address those. We know that the composition of our classrooms presents challenges in appropriate resources for our children, so we've committed to looking at our classroom composition as well as our inclusion policies to make sure that we have the right fit here in our province.
The Honourable, the Opposition House Leader.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, while hundreds of millions of dollars have been paid out to private agency travel nurses, the Liberal government has stopped tracking the actual amount. An ATIP post asking for an amount spent in March 2025 says, quote, the amount has not been calculated at this time due to other priorities within the relevant department. Speaker, why is the Minister giving agency nurses another blank cheque?
Wow. The Honourable Minister of Health and Community Services.
Thank you, Speaker. And I would like to correct the member opposite that we have not stopped tracking. We might not have had the number at the moment that he was looking for, but we are certainly monitoring the use of agency nurses here in Newfoundland and Labrador. And we do know that the reliance on agency nurses has decreased. We've been able to fill a lot of our vacancies. I believe the number is less than 300 vacancies now here in Newfoundland and Labrador, down from about 700 a number of months ago. But we do recognize that we still need to use travel nurses in some of those settings. So to that end, we've standardized our contracts and made sure that the amounts that are being paid out are more reasonable and appropriate to assure that the services are available in places where otherwise we would have to reduce the services and close hospitals, waiting rooms, or clinics.
The Honourable, the Opposition House Leader.
Thank you, Speaker. And Minister, it's pretty simple. If you're tracking those numbers, why weren't they available in March? That's a pretty simple question. I never asked the question. Someone else did, but it's a fair point. They asked and they were told they're not going to provide. So if you're tracking it, that should be easily accessible. Speaker, if you don't know how bad the problem is, how are you ever going to fix it? Agency nurses have gotten $300 an hour, free taxis, coffee, hair fryers under this government, which is being investigated right now by the Auditor General. Speaker, why has government eliminated any monitoring or accountability for private or profit agency nurses?
The Honourable Minister of Health and Community Services.
Thank you, Speaker. And as I said, we do recognize that there was some challenges with the agency nursing and the contracts that were being awarded, but we've since standardized that process. We now have a more firmed up plan in place, and the payments and reimbursements are more appropriate, and we do recognize that there is a decrease in the use of travel nurses. As to why or why not the number might not have been available, I don't have the answer for that, but I can certainly get it for the member opposite and give the most up-to-date numbers on what our reliance on travel nurses looks like and the amount that has been spent. But in terms of accountability, there are regular meetings of health transformation tables who are responsible for different aspects of the healthcare system, and travel nursing is one of them. They report routinely on the numbers and the funding that's been allocated for that particular part of the system.
The Honourable, the Opposition House Leader.
Thank you, Speaker. I'd like to remind everyone that all of this started a travel agency nurse in the province with a call to the Premier's office. Now we have tens of millions a month being paid out, yet the Minister has no idea the exact figure and doesn't even measure it anymore, even though I've been told they're going to try to find it. That's what was told to this ATIP, which that to me is the stat. That's where the department's do right now. They're not tracking it. So, Speaker, when did the Minister cancel her government's commitment to eliminate travel nurses?
The Honourable the Minister of Health and Community Services.
Thank you, Speaker. And for the record, travel nursing didn't start when a call to the Premier's office. It started when the leader of the opposition party was the CEO of Labrador-Grenfell Health. And if we'd like to go down that road, then I can certainly open up a storybook that would tell the tales of what operations in Labrador-Grenfell Health look like under the leadership of the member opposite. But I don't have time for that today. What I would like to address is the fact that we are decreasing our reliance on travel nurses. We have made a public commitment that we are going to continue recruitment and retention efforts so that we can, where possible, eliminate the use of travel nurses. But I, for one, will not be responsible for closing a clinic because we don't have appropriate resources if a travel nurse is available. We still have to provide services to the people of this province, but we will do so in a manner that's accountable and that is responsible.
The Honourable the Member Terranova.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, my office is receiving calls from families trying to access 911 services in rural parts of our province. Callers to 911 are repeatedly asked to give a postal code, which has led responders to wrong addresses because multiple small communities share the same postal code. Speaker, why is integrated ambulance services failing rural Newfoundland and Labrador?
The Honourable the Minister of Justice and Public Safety.
Thank you very much, Speaker. 911 is an older system and is currently in the process of being rebooted with the next generation. The issue of geolocation and civic addresses has been an active one for some years, and 911 and my department are quite happy to work through municipal affairs to deal with the issue of locations of premises and properties in a way that gets around the need for a postal code. As soon as that's done, we'll put it up live.
The Honourable the Member Terranova.
Speaker, the Minister might be happy to work through it, but the people that are waiting for ambulances aren't happy. I can guarantee you that. Speaker, in my district, emergency responders were dispatched to an address in Deep Bight. They went to the same address in Hillview. Unfortunately, 911 repeatedly asked for the postal code, which led them to the wrong house. Will the Minister order a review of the use of postal codes at Central Dispatch?
The Honourable Minister of Justice and Public Safety.
To carry on with my previous answer, the short answer is we accept postal codes and civic addresses do not work in rural Newfoundland and Labrador. The Department of Emergency Services is working with 911 to get a solution to that, and as soon as that is available, we will put it in place. Our prime aim is to get the resources to the people as fast as we can, and we need the help of all parties involved, including municipalities. Thank you.
The Honourable the Member Terranova.
Speaker, this system is failing. Another policy implemented with no foresight whatsoever. Stroke victim in my area waited over an extra half of an hour, what it should have took the ambulance to get there, because of this type of a mistake. Let me give the Minister another example. This time, an accident occurred on the Trans-Canada Highway in Terranova National Park. Once again, the dispatcher continually demanded that a postal code was provided on a Trans-Canada Highway in the middle of nowhere. Speaker, precious seconds are being lost because landmarks and specific directions are not good enough. Will the Minister order a review?
The Honourable Minister of Justice and Public Safety.
The answer to this question is the same as the previous one, Speaker. The facts are we acknowledge that postal codes and civic addresses do not work in rural Newfoundland and Labrador the same way they would in, say, Gander or St. John's or Grand Falls. We are in the process of finding a solution to that problem, and we expect that we will have a system at the end of it which is better. Thank you.
The Honourable Member Terranova.
If he wants to talk about facts, the facts are this is not working. A few years ago, when JRCC closed, this government lobbied to get it reopened because people would have local knowledge of where they had to go. This plan is failing. Will the minister order a review?
The Honourable Minister of Justice and Public Safety.
The answer again keeps on asking the same question. I'm going to keep on giving him the same answer. JRCC, just for his reference, and he should know it, is actually a federal responsibility. The issue of postal codes and civic addresses does not work in rural Newfoundland and Labrador. We have identified that, and we are working on a solution.
The Honourable Member for Fairyland.
Speaker, time is of the essence when somebody's in an accident, that's for sure. Speaker, residents across the eastern region have been turned away from the waste recovery facilities because they don't have an access card, and some have been waiting months to receive one. Why does the Minister of Environment support a system that serves as a barrier for people from cleaning up their properties and communities?
The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Take the minister's question, member's question under advisement and get back to the House.
The Honourable Member for Fairyland.
Seriously, Speaker, we got different ministers in here over the last few years. Time for somebody to get down to business at this stuff. Speaker, with growing confusion among residents, especially seniors, and long delays in processing, how can the minister stand behind a card-based system that restricts access to waste sites? Will the minister direct the Eastern Regional Service Board to scrap the card-based system?
The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
As I said, I'll take the question under advisement and report back to the House.
The Honourable Member for Fairyland.
Speaker, as I can tell, this is garbage answers, because that's terrible what's going on here. Speaker, this access card system relies on printers, scanners, emails and uploading documents, but many seniors and rural residents simply don't have access to technology. At the time when Newfoundland and Labrador are already ranked worst in the country for red tape, yes, I'll say red tape, why is the Liberal government supporting a system that adds even more barriers to those in rural communities?
The Honourable Minister of Government Modernisation and Service Delivery.
Thank you, Speaker. What the member described sounds like an important issue, and as responsible for government modernization, I look forward to speaking with the minister, the member opposite, to see how we can improve that for people of the province. Thank you, Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Harbour Main.
Following the seizure of a shocking amount of fentanyl, advocates are looking for more strategies to prevent overdose-related deaths. Since this seizure in September, has the Minister of Justice and Public Safety, together with the Minister of Health, developed a strategy to prevent overdose-related deaths?
The Honourable Minister of Justice and Public Safety.
Thank you, Speaker. The issue of overdose and, in actual fact, poisoning, because a lot of these people are not aware that they're taking fentanyl, is one that's been very prominent in my role right through government from 2015 onwards. Very rapidly, we introduced measures to mitigate the number of overdoses that were fatal, starting with naloxone kits. That has been a very successful program, and I'm sure my colleague in Health will be able to deliver more accurate statistics than I. We have also emphasized the role of treatment, and we now have more people on opioid withdrawal and opioid dependence treatment than we have had in our history. The numbers continue to rise because of the success of our outreach efforts.
The Honourable Member for Harbour Main.
Speaker, there is no aggressive strategy in place, but there is a crisis here which threatens the safety and well-being of everyone. Hear, hear. Speaker, we know that an increase in drug use correlates to an increase in drug-related crime, a serious issue, especially in rural Newfoundland and Labrador. So I ask the Minister, why did the Liberal government ignore the recommendations of the National Police Federation for 25 more RCMP officers for rural communities?
The Honourable Minister of Justice and Public Safety.
Thank you very much, Speaker. We have not ignored anybody on the front lines of law enforcement in this province. We have another 19 police officers coming into the system over the course of the next year. We have task force developed between the RNC and the RCMP, which has had great success. Indeed, the member's initial question was based on the results of that task force's work, with record hauls of contraband and illicit drugs. The system is working. It is under stress, but we are continuing to resource it and will continue to do so.
The Honourable Member for Harbour Main.
Speaker, drugs are destroying our communities. The drug crisis in our province is spiraling out of control. The RNC says that the charges laid by the Drug Enforcement Unit has also risen sevenfold in 2 years to 181 charges. That was back in 2023. What is this Minister of Justice going to do to prevent drugs from entering this province?
The Honourable Minister of Justice and Public Safety.
Thank you, Speaker. Those increasing numbers are a sign of success. The task force that the member referenced with her initial question is a sign of the success of these measures. We are one piece of a massive national and I would argue continental issue with fentanyl. It is not going to be solved by any one agency, be it Justice and Public Safety. You can't police your way out of this. You can't rely solely on education to deal with the risk of addiction, and you can't rely solely on prevention. We have to all work together, and each of those elements of harm reduction will ultimately result in success, and we're seeing that with those changing numbers.
The Honourable Member for Fogo Highland Cape Freeholders.
Speaker, several letters have been sent to the Premier and Minister about the ferry service in Fogo Island and Change Islands. With tourism season underway, there's concerns visitors will cancel plans if service is unreliable. Placing the MV Veteran and the Astron on the run would add capacity issues. Will the Minister commit to returning the MV Veteran once the Cometic W goes back to Labrador?
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I understand I have had some outreach from the Mayor. I haven't had an opportunity to get to him yet, Mayor of Fogo, and we'll do that. And the Ferry Users Committee, I certainly be open to a meeting, as I've done before in the past, because it's important issues. And I understand the transportation of fish products from the island. It's very important at this point in time, but the final decisions haven't been made yet, but they will be coming within the next week or so.
The Honourable Member of Fogo Highland Cape Freeholders.
Well, it's not only fish products, but that's important as well. Tourism is a big one as well. We are in the height of our fishery as well, and that's going to place more stress on the capacity. Speaker, the Cometic W is days away from returning to Labrador, and residents still don't know the summer ferry plan. Last night, it left Faro with 2 vehicles left behind due to high traffic. 2 decks were at full capacity. The Astron holds just 18 cars. Will the Minister bring the MV Veteran back to Fogo Island Change Islands run this summer?
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I understand those challenges, and those challenges have been there for years upon years upon years. It's the reality of ferries and in those communities, no doubt about it. But again, in terms of that decision, it will be coming soon.
Here.
The Honourable Member Topsail Paradise.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, residents of Kenmount Terrace are hearing rumours that their long-promised school will be delayed again. The school has been re-announced several times with a committed opening date of September 2026. I ask the Minister, will the school open as promised for September 2026?
The Honourable Minister of Government Modernisation and Service Delivery.
Thank you, Speaker. And I promise no one wants this to be the school to open more than I do, Speaker. It is what I do every day, all day, Speaker.
You voted for the budget.
Thank you, Speaker. Yes, and I voted for the budget, which puts a significant amount of money forward for the new school in Kenmount Terrace. And so we have an announcement imminent. I know the public servants within government have been busy. It's difficult to. It's very, 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 very imminent. Thank you, Speaker.
The Honourable Member Topsail Paradise.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, no fewer than 3 ministers attended a meeting last June at Kenmount Terrace. No more than 3. All three committed to this school opening in September 2026. In fact, the Minister of Infrastructure said it will be a pre-designed package which can be turned around quickly. When will the Liberals come clean with the residents on the progress of Kenmount Terrace School and a date of full completion?
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I know my colleague has advocated this for a long time, and it's an important project, no doubt about it. But let me be clear for people that are listening to the member opposite gets up and talks about how important this is. He didn't even vote for the budget. He didn't even vote for support of that school. So that's the essence of it. But I can guarantee you that there will be ground will be moving very soon for that new school in Paradise.
The honourable member Topsail Paradise.
I'm glad the member is listening, because I've stood in this House and mentioned many times why that budget wasn't going to place. Many times. Speaker, there are ongoing issues at the current Lark Hall Academy, which was supposed to close years ago. Many, many promises were made on upgrades, much like the budget. Many, many promises. Parents have reported furnace problems and persistent oil smell. In fact, the school is closed today. Has the government conducted any air quality testing to ensure the safety of students and staff?
The Honourable the Minister of Government Modernisation and Service Delivery.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And it's an important question. I've been working with the parents at Lark Hall Academy for just over a year now. We had a big, long list of improvements and fixes, and I believe, Speaker, most of them were resolved. We did a tour with the Minister of Education before the school opened. I'm not aware of an issue today, but we'll certainly take that away. And obviously, school infrastructure and student safety is like the most important thing, obviously, Speaker. And our solution to that is a new school in Kenmount Terrace, which is ground is going to move imminently. Thank you, Speaker.
The Honourable member Topsail Paradise.
Hi, Speaker. I've got to tell you this now. We had this meeting a year ago, and there were many, many promises made about changes and upgrades to these schools, Lark Hall and Learysbrook. Up last month, they were still complaining about those not being done. Speaker, a new high school for Paradise announced in March 2024 still lacks a clear time frame for the plan. Can the Minister tell this House exactly when that school will open?
The Honourable Minister of Education and Early Childhood Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do thank the honourable member for the question. It's an important one. Anytime we talk about building infrastructure, which we've built many pieces of infrastructure for not only schools in this province, but hospitals, significant infrastructure. So we're going to be continuing to make, when we make a commitment, it will be delivered on. I know there's a significant amount of infrastructure in the queue that's being built, both in a healthcare setting as well as schools. We're going to continue to do that because we see the need in that area. Just like Kenmount Terrace, I can't wait to say the words that my honourable colleague says all the time. Stay tuned.
The Honourable Leader of the Third Party.
Thank you, Speaker. On May 16th, all Newfoundland and Labrador reported that an unidentified buyer, through a slew of new Ontario holding companies, is spending almost $33 million to purchase already existing apartment buildings, some of them seniors' apartments. Speaker, this government continually speaks about the need for private investors in housing, yet none of these purchases will increase housing capacity, keep rents affordable, the tenants housed, or ensure that money stays in the province. I asked the Minister of Housing to explain how this type of secretive property ownership of existing apartment buildings will help resolve the housing shortage.
The Honourable Minister responsible for Newfoundland and Labrador Housing Corporation.
Thank you, Speaker, for the opportunity to respond. I'm not quite sure where the member is coming from in terms of his question. The private market is working quite well in terms of a company or individual able and willing to purchase a property. So we have no role in that process. What we do have a role in is to make sure that seniors and other low-income families have a place to call home, that we provide either the home itself, provide support to contractors to build homes for seniors, or to provide rental assistance. And that's what we are doing. So what government is responsible for, we're doing quite effectively, and we will continue to expand. What the private sector is doing, it's the role of the private sector.
The Honourable Leader of the Third Party.
I think the Minister actually needs to talk to people who are renting in some of these REITs and financialized landlords. Speaker, the fact is that the MO of large financial landlords like REITs and holding companies is to buy up existing apartment buildings cheaply and jack up rents year over year to maximize profits for their investors. It is not about keeping rents affordable. They know their tenants have nowhere else to go, so I asked the Minister what steps will he take to ensure that rents in apartments owned by large financialized landlords remain affordable.
The Honourable the Minister responsible for Newfoundland and Labrador Housing Corporation.
Thank you, Speaker. I know the member has a particular challenge against REITs, which are an instrument to allow housing, multiple housing units to be built across this country. Teachers' pension plans actually invest in REITs. So that's how the private market works in that instance. But what I'm focused on, both as Minister responsible for housing and for seniors, is to make sure the seniors, low-income families, low-income seniors have a place to call home, and that we are investing in housing, which we did and announced. Justin Pushkov, where the member from Cape St. Francis joined me the other day. So we will continue to invest. At the same time, we are seeing expansion in home construction across this province for both low-income families and for seniors, and we will continue to support that.
The Honourable the Leader of the Third Party.
Speaker, REITs and large financial landlords are failing people looking for affordable rent. Speaker, many seniors on pensions and people on fixed incomes are afraid they will be unable to pay the increasing rents and will be rendered homeless. People we spoke to are facing monthly rent increases anywhere from $50 to $160 and have had increases in rent every year for the past 5 years or longer. I asked the Minister, will he bring in rent and vacancy control on REITs and other large financialized landlords to ease the anxiety of renters, or will he simply stand by and let the predatory gouging continue?
The Honourable Minister of Government Modernisation and Service Delivery.
Thank you, Speaker. So the landlord-tenant, the residential tenancies area of government falls within my mandate, Speaker, and I've looked extensively at rent controls as a policy objective and whether that works. When we look across the country, the provinces that have rent stabilization measures actually see much higher rental increases than what we have in Newfoundland and Labrador, Speaker. We look at the data very closely. I can talk about this all day, and I'm happy. I've chatted with the member, happy to chat further. But Speaker, in Canada, we've seen that that does not work in terms of keeping rates stable. Thank you, Speaker.
Time for oral question has expired. Point of order. The Honourable Member Terranova.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, during question period, the member for Topsail Paradise asked a question, and the member for Cape Lahoon stood on his feet, and Fortune Bay, Cape Lahoon stood on his feet and referenced a vote. Now, Standing Order 49 clearly says, last sentence, no member may reflect upon any vote of the House except for the purpose of moving that such vote be rescinded. So I kindly ask the member to apologise and rescind that remark.
I'm going to take the member's point of order under advisement and report back. Presenting reports by standing select committees. Tabling of documents. Notices of motions. The Honourable the Member for Harbour Main.
So moved by the member for Harbour Main, seconded by the member for Stephenville Port-a-Port. I move the following private member's resolution. Whereas persons who have disabilities far too often face barriers in the community, and whereas persons who have disabilities have a right to equal access to services and community spaces, including health care, employment, transportation, housing and education, and a standalone statutory office of the Advocate for Persons with Disabilities would play a vital role in ensuring the rights of persons with disabilities throughout Newfoundland and Labrador are properly respected. And whereas, according to Statistics Canada, over 30% of the residents of this province live with a disability, and whereas people, both those who have a disability and those who do not, have consistently been calling for a disability advocate for many years. And whereas the 2021 mandate letter for the then Minister of Children, Seniors and Social Development reads, please continue work to establish an advocate for persons with disabilities in Newfoundland and Labrador. And whereas the Coalition of Persons with Disabilities, Newfoundland and Labrador, have said that they are very much opposed to adding the role and responsibilities of an advocate for persons with disabilities to the role of the seniors advocate. And whereas the seniors advocate has publicly stated that her statutory office does not have the resources to take on the role and responsibilities of an advocate for persons with disabilities, disabilities and represent the disabilities community well. Therefore, be it resolved that this honourable House calls on the Government of Newfoundland and Labrador to immediately create a dedicated advocate for persons with disabilities who, as a standalone statutory officer of this honourable House, will investigate and make recommendations based on the principle of nothing about us without us. Thank you.
Further notes and motions? The Honourable the Opposition House Leader.
Just notice motion.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay.
That resolution that my colleague from Ireland just read in will be the private members' resolution we'll debate tomorrow as part of private members' day. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further notes and motions? Answer to questions which notice has been given. Petitions. The Honourable Member for Placentia West Bellevue.
Thank you, Speaker. The background to this petition is as follows. Whereas there have not been any improvements in Wi-Fi and cell service throughout the district of Placentia West Bellevue for over 10 years. Therefore, we petition the Honourable House of Assembly as follows. We, the undersigned, call upon the House of Assembly to urge the Government of Newfoundland and Labrador to formulate a plan to improve Wi-Fi and cell service issues throughout the district of Placentia West Bellevue, affecting fire and emergency services, tourism, business, medical services, and personal use that does not meet today's standards and expectations. Speaker, this petition is signed by people in English Harbour East, signed by actually somebody from CBS as well. But the thing is that this is, while I bring this forward on behalf of the people of Placentia West Bellevue, I think that what we need to do is really focus on the 5 towers that I mentioned in my petition on behalf of the people of Placentia West Bellevue, and that's fire and emergency services. Fire and emergency services, there's so many dead areas that sometimes we don't even know if anybody's responding or anything like that. But also, if somebody goes off the road in one of these dead areas, their chances of getting those fire and emergency services are very unlikely. Therefore, that alone should give us the impetus to make sure that there's no dead areas anywhere. You have tourism. We have some of the most beautiful implements, but yet you know, there's no way to connect with people, like let's say if you're on the Chance Cove Trail. You know, then we have business and industry. We have a lot of industry in my district. Nobody wants to come here from outside the province doing business and not be able to be on their phones or computer on their way to their, you know, granted they have a driver, but you know, once they get in some of these smaller communities, they want to be able to connect with their company and be able to report back in real time, and that's really a barrier to us doing business same as the rest of the world. Medical services is a really stickler for me, because we talk about all the virtual care and all that kind of stuff, but if people don't have Wi-Fi and cell service, it's not a service that we can say that we can even roster them on or we can even provide to them, because it's just not available because of the Wi-Fi and cell service. And then, of course, personal use. You know, I always tell the story about a lady in Brookside. She has to go into a certain part in her window in the front room of her house, and so she can download a picture of her grandkids. I think we're well beyond that. This is 2025. What we need to do is really go to the service providers and make sure that we understand there's a robust plan by them to make investment, so that it's not just about the urban areas, but it's about the rural areas too. Thank you, Speaker.
The Honourable Member Fogwell and Cape Frills.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, the residents of Stoneville over the last 2 years have saw a continued increase in crime and vandalism in their community. Residents now live in fear with heightened anxiety that they will be next. We, the undersigned, call upon the House of Assembly to urge the Government of Newfoundland and Labrador to increase police presence in the community and reinstate closed RCMP detachments in the region to ensure less crime and safer communities. Speaker, I've talked about this in the House before, and I know I met with the community of Stoneville, the local service district there, And they have sent numerous letters to the Minister and the Premier on this issue, and not getting anywhere with it up to this point in time. Crime is increasing almost on a daily basis down there. And there's a young man there that's causing this crime. They ask that he be removed from the community, put into an institution where he get the right medical attention. Take them and arrest them and bring them to the judge and slap on the wrists and bag in. That's not working. This young man needs medical attention to take care of his problem. And we also have this crime taking place in surrounding communities as well. And I have met with the town of Caronville where the detachment was closed. I met with the RCMP and the town council of Caronville, and we need that detachment in full force again in order to take care of those situations. And we had another situation over the weekend I just found out about today of another person in another community not too far away deliberately burned down a house and 2 sheds. Deliberately. And that person right now is in custody, but probably will be out on the street again tomorrow. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Fairyland.
Thank you, Speaker. The background to this petition is as follows. Route 10 on the Southern Evelyn forms a large section of the Irish Loop. This is a significant piece of infrastructure and is the main highway along the Irish Loop. This highway plays a major role in residential and commercial growth of our region. Therefore, we petition the House of Assembly as follows, that immediate brush cuttings required on Route 10 of the Southern Shore Highway, as large sections of brush along this highway is a significant safety hazard for the high volume of travelling tourists who travel this highway daily. This work is essential in the prevention of most vehicle accidents along the way. Speaker, I've done this many times over the last 4 or 5 years for sure on brush cutting, and I asked the Minister today, I wrote the office a couple of times to the Minister of TI about when the brush cutting is coming back. They were up there earlier the year, then they left. They were supposed to come back 2 weeks ago, they haven't been there. Supposed to come back last week, they haven't been there. Hopefully that they're there today. I'll have to drive up to find out. Haven't got notified when they're coming. But I did have somebody say to me, is there any word on brush cutting? Hard to hit the brakes 100 feet past 6 a.m. this morning where an excavator stopped brush cutting. Needs to be done. If I had to hit a moose there, I would have to wait another car to pass by for help because there's no cell phone coverage in the area. So 2 issues dealing with this. One is really the first part was brush cutting. I've repeatedly asked, last year was supposed to happen in October, didn't happen. The former minister, they were supposed to come in December, it didn't come in December, it didn't come in January. Now they got up there, they bought up a small excavator and done a little bit of work, which was good. But right where they stopped, this is moose season, they're out on the roads. The brush cutting is right out through the alders, the brush cutting, or right out through the guardrails, the brush cutting needs to be done. There's alders right out on the road, and this needs to be done it's a safety time of the year, this time of the year. It's safety. People are driving, I've seen many moose driving back the last few days, back and forth. And I'm not even up in that area of the country where there's brush cutting need to be done. There's certain areas where I'm driving, it needs to be done. But in that area, it's right on the road. And if you want to go up there on a wet night and drive down when it's foggy and try to see where the moose are coming out on the roads, it's near impossible to see. I know people got to slow down, but I asked the Minister, when are they coming back into the district to finish the brush cutting? Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Bonavista.
Thank you, Speaker.
Get him back here.
The road to Tickle Cove, Open Hall and Redcliffe within the district of Bonavista is in very poor condition and has destructive potholes. Residents are perplexed why these destructive potholes would not be addressed in a timely manner, and the road not being maintained and repaired to an acceptable standard. We, the undersigned, call upon the House of Assembly to urge the Government of Newfoundland and Labrador to address the deplorable road conditions on this route to Tickle Cove, where vehicles are damaged and school children are badly shaken in their trips to and from school. With ingenuity and an improved master plan, we feel there ought to be no destructive potholes remaining in our roads and maintenance performed to repair this deplorable road in a timely manner. This is a 7.8 kilometre stretch from 235 down to Tickle Cove on the side of Bonavista Bay. It's one of the most scenic and beautiful areas in the province. The original host of Land and Sea, Dave Quinton, he spent all his summers in Redcliffe. Fishery strong, tourist strong, and resident strong. The residents in the district fully realize that the major thoroughfares ought to get the priority. 230, 231, or 235, sorry, and 233. But we've got a serious lack of attention to the trunk lines, and many of these trunk lines are tourist attractions. What is consistent in these areas, all these trunk lines, is that there's only a small portion that is really ultra deplorable. A small portion. Like the road to Tickle Cove, 7.8 kilometers, 2.5 to 3 kilometers is brutal. The rest can be managed. The road to Bonaventure in 239, 17 kilometers, 1.5 to 3 kilometers is brutal. The rest of it is perfect. 232 to the plane crash site in Burgoyne's Cove. 2 kilometers of the 17 is most brutal. What we'd like to see is or the 1 kilometer in Spiller's Cove to the UNESCO site. There's 8 kilometers of Sweet Bay, but there's 1.5 kilometers that is the most brutal. What we'd like to see is a different approach. Let's have a plan to tackle those really deplorable sections on these very important trunk lines in our district. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Orders of the day. The Honourable the Deputy Government. The Honourable the Deputy Government House Leader. Oh, order, please. Order, please. If the members want. I'll ask the Minister of Transportation and the member for Fairyland, please. Order, please. Order.
Make sure you apologize more.
Member of Fairyland, order, please. The Honourable the Government House Leader.
Thank you, Speaker. I call from the order paper number 7, second reading of Bill 99, an act to amend the United Church of Canada Act.
Yep.
Seconded by the Minister for Justice and Public Safety.
Thank you. The Honourable the Minister of Justice and Public Safety.
Thank you very much, Speaker.
Order, please.
Thank you for the protection from the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure. I appreciate it. 99 years ago, there was a bill passed in the legislature of the colony of Newfoundland to incorporate the United Church of Canada. It says the colony. Yes. This was part of a move at the time and a fashion, I think, in legislation whereby religious foundations would use a private bill of the House in their jurisdiction to establish themselves on a legislative footing. It's kind of like, but not quite like, the orders of incorporation. But this is a bill that pertains only and solely to what is now the United Church of Canada. And the United bit was the Methodist congregations of the various churches within the colony of the day. It is interesting to read all on its own because the language is absolutely fascinating to someone who has looked at the evolution of the English language. It really is quite an amazing piece of literature. The reason it has to come to an amendment, however, is that over time these institutions change and want to adapt and evolve. But there comes a point where they come up against a legislative footing. And the only way to change that is they don't have access to bylaws in the sense that some of the organisations that we deal with here would. And the Act is very prescriptive in the way the organisation is established, its governance, its ability to hold property, and its ability to buy and sell property. And previous amendments to the Act, the last of which I think was in 1982, there was one in 1961 and one in 1982, they were to allow the United Church, as it had become, to deal with some property transactions and some changes of title. And because of the fact these were legislated in a bill then passed, these actually had to come back to the House to be reworked. It was not unusual for religious institutions to do this, and in actual fact this particular amendment here has been introduced successively in jurisdictions across Canada, and it's kind of our turn now. This is done solely at the request of what were the Methodist congregations, what are now the United Church of Canada, and the idea is that they wish to change their governance structure. The bill that was passed in 1926 originally had 25 sections and 2 schedules in the last section. The first schedule is a fascinating insight into the theology of the day and talks about it's essentially a creed for the United Church. It's a theological document, and I shudder to think what would happen from an optics point of view as well as a reality point of view should they ever decide that they wish to change some of that in the light of more modern ecumenical and theological thinking, because we in this House, or whoever sits here at the time, would actually then be involved in a theological discussion, which I think would be quite unusual, if not unique, in the history of this legislature. The second schedule, however, makes reference to governance, and the whole effect of this Act is to lock the church into old-style language, and the church basically want to change it. The need for it is solely one from within the Methodist congregations, as they were the United Church as they now are. Similarly, in actual fact, the Anglican Church in Canada is established on a private bill, and in actual fact the trend, I think, was set in what you might call the mother country back in the day when the Church of England, as then was actually legally created as the established church of the state. It is a state religion. It's one of the few countries that actually does have a state religion. And the Queen, as was, and the King, as is the titular head of the church as well as the state. Result of some interesting history for those of you who may want to read about it, involving gunpowder under Houses of Parliament and various public executions over the course of centuries. Not a process I would recommend for changing governance structures, and hence we're here today to discuss this. If passed, it contains provisions specific only to the United Church. So one of the questions that is usually asked in committee is around who was consulted, and the answer is their lawyers, and our lawyers were the sole arbiters of what this is, because it affects nobody else at all. It is the duty and responsibility of the UCC, should they wish to change anything, to actually make that request. The language changes that are in there, and I've stood in this House on several occasions with older bills, and we have worked through changes in language that reflect more modern legislative process. Their lawyers were very keen that we tinkered only with what we changed, because again, it is their bill and it is their Act. The principal changes here are around language, because the term presbyteries, which is what is used in the original bill and the original Act, is now going to be replaced with the term regional council. It doesn't actually alter, however, the powers and entitlements that are otherwise legislated in the bill, and it is down to simply a change in language, a change in title. It will allow them to do exactly what the presbyteries do at the moment, but they wish to have them renamed. We have looked at the legislation that the UCC has had in other jurisdictions, and everyone actually has a unanimous, almost consensus on the point of the language. One of the suggestions, as this bill was so short, was that given the fact it took a microfilm, a microfiche reader, and some fancy optics to actually print out this, was one of the ways of digitizing it might be actually to read the whole thing into the record. But I think as I only have 59 minutes and 59 seconds to do that, even my speed reading would be taxed to get that done in the time available. Much as I enjoy standing and speaking, like all of us do here, we kind of like to do that. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. I'm really running out of energy to try and get this to last much longer. So, at the risk of being bumped again by the Government House Leader, I'm going to take my seat after beseeching the members of this House to actually vote in favour of this amendment. Thank you.
Before I move to the next speaker, I just want to confirm who the mover and second to this bill number 99 was. Okay, Government House Leader and second by the Minister of Justice and Public Safety. Thank you. We'll move on to other speakers. The member for Bay-Vert, Green Bay.
There we go. And Speaker, I first want to highlight how I was selected for this. I grew up 3 houses down from the United Church in Robert's Arm, and as a young lad, I helped build the manse. And I'm not sure if manse is recorded in the Act in anywhere, but the manse is the local habitat for the Reverend. This is part of our history, as was highlighted, and I know in my own family it's a significant part that goes back 200 years, and you know, the minister highlighted it was just the Methodist Church, and the Methodist was indeed the largest congregation that came together to form the United Church, but it was also a collection of other congregations and churches at that time as well, and that included the Congregationalist and the Presbyterian. And actually in some provinces we still see the Presbyterian faith very active churches. So the United Church Act of Canada is a specific type of act referred to as a local, personal, and private act. So as the minister highlighted, this is about really what the United Church wants to do with their own governance. These private acts are designed to apply to a specific individual group or corporation, or to enshrine specific powers of governance to a person or organization, as compared to the Public Act. And in this case here, that organization is the United Church of Canada. And their entity in the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. So as was highlighted, yes, 99 years. So next year, the church will celebrate its 100 years in Newfoundland and Labrador. And I believe that is a significant milestone for the United Church community in our province. And in fact, we have a number of actual churches that were erected by the Methodists and then turned over to the United Church that are beyond that 100-year celebration. And like I said, in this, like was noted, it was amended in 1982 to enshrine the structure and governance of the United Church of Canada. in our province. The Newfoundland arm of the United Church of Canada, as was noted, has requested these changes. You know, and this is all part of that separation of church and state to bring their legislation up to date with their governance structure and terminology. Now, the minister, you know, highlighted with regards to how things, I guess, or some changes was tried in the past in England, and I would encourage him on November the 5th to come and visit some of the communities in rural Newfoundland where that attempted change with the gun plot is still celebrated quite clearly in a number of communities across the province, and that is referred to for many rural Newfoundland communities as Bonfire Night. And these substitutions to change the language will also encompass certain sub-organizations of the United Church in Canada. I will note with these changes, and you know, kind of struck me because we've seen all this in the last few weeks with the election of the new Pope. You know, really a celebration of ecumenical history. And so it kind of struck me for some of the changes that are being leveraged with this new act, and I guess a regression from some of the older ecclesiastic terminology that was being used, like presbytery, and replacing that with council. You know, our Christian heritage here in this province, and that's how we were built. I say to a number of the students when I see them out in my district, you know, your forefathers and mothers first built tilts, then they built churches, and in some cases those churches then also served as schools, and then afterwards they built schools. And I think that's a reflection as to what we see written above the Speaker's chair, Quorit Prim Regnum Dei. Given that the Church has specifically requested these changes to the Act, and this Act is specifically for the United Church here in the province, we recommend, and we thank you so much.
The Honourable the Minister of Government Modernization Service Delivery.
Thank you, Speaker. I know the Minister of Justice and Public Safety gave us a fulsome overview of the legislation, and it's like a nuance, I guess, that we're bringing this in the House today. We don't usually do this type of thing. I just wanted to spend a few minutes and talk generally about the United Church of Canada. And interesting, I was looking up in advance of speaking today. The amendments proposed by the United Church of Canada to this Act were actually voted on in their 2015 General Council, which was in Corner Brook in Newfoundland and Labrador. So it's full circle, and I know that all the other provinces had to enact or are enacting similar legislation as well. And I noticed the United Church of Canada is the largest Protestant Christian denomination in Canada, and it's the second largest Canadian Christian denomination after the Catholic Church of Canada. So I, Speaker, am I would say a full member, I guess, of the United Church of Canada. I was baptized and confirmed Royal United Church in Grand Falls, Windsor. I also attend St. James United on Elizabeth Avenue sometimes, Speaker. I want to take the opportunity. I know that members of our religious congregations in Newfoundland and Labrador do a lot for our community, a lot of public service. I know, for example, one of the reasons why I'm content and happy to be a member of the United Church of Canada, they officially support same-sex marriages. I know St. James United on Elizabeth Avenue, they have a space for Quadrangle, the organization in Newfoundland and Labrador. So I think that's an incredible outreach activity that they perform as well, Speaker. And I know that the religious organizations and institutions in Newfoundland and Labrador do a lot for newcomers. In my former role in immigration, population growth and skills, I learned a lot about the role that they play for newcomers. They took a significant role with the Ukrainian population when they came here, as well as just newcomers in general. I had the privilege of attending a multiculturalism day at Bethesda Pentecostal Church in St. John's, and I would say, Speaker, it's the most fun I had in a long time. Everyone was dancing, and it was a great welcoming environment for Christian populations living in St. John's, and it was a great time, Speaker. I also, as an MHA, had the privilege of awarding 2 75th Confederation medals to 2 members of the congregation at St. James United, primarily based on their efforts for newcomers in assisting them, going above and beyond to help them integrate in our community, helping to secure and to coordinate things that they needed. And I know that other congregations of all kinds of churches around Newfoundland and Labrador help newcomers. So I just want to thank them for what they do. And so in conclusion, I support the legislation and thank the Minister of Justice and Public Safety for bringing forward. Thank you, Speaker.
Seeing no others. Oh, the honourable member for Lake Millville.
Thank you, Speaker. As some of the other members who've spoken so far to Bill 99, interesting is Bill. I'm sorry, to this bill. Yeah, Bill 99. Yeah. There's some personal attachment, and I think since I can remember, and long before I can remember, I have been attending the United Church of Canada. It has been a part of my life since that time and continues today. So it's very much a part of the community that I live in Happy Valley Goose Bay, and a very important part of that community. It's interesting, in 1993, I was married in the Gower Street United Church by Reverend Marion Party, who has become a very important friend. My wife and I were married there, and with great support at that time and thereafter. So there's a lot of personal attachment and appreciation for that support. It's interesting that Marion became the 37th moderator of the United Church of Canada. An amazing accomplishment, someone right from this province who's done very well on the national stage and represented her church and this province, and very, very well, and one that we should be very proud of. It's also interesting that in just a few days in Happy Valley Goose Bay, we're going to join in the 100th anniversary of the creation of this church, and as some other members have spoken, it was at that time, as the member for St. John's East Kitty Vidi, indicated, the minister, that when we were a Dominion is when we first recognized this church. So here we are 100 years later, and this weekend, the very Reverend Marion Party will be in Happy Valley Goose Bay. I'll be very pleased to join her in a potluck on Saturday night. And on Sunday, I've been asked to help participate in that service, which I do on occasion just to get a little practice and also to support the church and the community. So all very interesting. Marion also just recently received some special recognition. She received the King Charles Coronation Medal for her leadership in interfaith and community service. So somebody who's very prominent on the United Church of Canada scene in this province, and continues to be an advocate. I've also met with her in previous lives. I think some of my colleagues as well. She's been a very determined person looking at various ways to support people with a living wage, various strategies. So we are often hearing from her and various issues, and she deserves a tremendous amount of appreciation for her advocacy. I just wanted to add a few words about what this bill is all about. The minister introduced some interesting elements to the aspect of a theological debate in this legislature. I would add the word humor, sir. I think it would also be quite interesting to see us debate that. And in addition to the other adjectives that you used to describe how such a debate might ensue. But I did want to say that the structure is important. The church has evolved. I think as the member for, what is your, Mount Sile, I should know that. I'd like to take that route through there when I go back and forth. For Mount Sile indicated, this is a church that recognizes very much and is very much a promoter of equal rights, inclusivity, welcoming of new Canadians, and it's one that I've been very much a part of as a volunteer and very much applaud. The structure that's in this act, we are perhaps one of the last jurisdictions to actually implement it across the country. That was first passed back in at a regional council meeting in 2019. So this will help streamline governance. It will reduce volunteer needs. It'll simplify the decision making, and it will address a big problem plaguing a lot of churches in our country, and that's financial constraints. So it will take, the United Church of Canada will comprise 16 regional councils, replacing some 88 presbyteries and 13 conferences. So it's going to make that organization's life much more easy to deal with, and I'm one that, along with my colleagues, are very proud to be on my feet and a close association throughout my life with this church. I'm very proud to support here today. Thank you very much, Speaker.
The honourable member Topsail Paradise.
Thank you, Speaker. And I hadn't intended to get up and speak on this. It's a pretty straightforward piece of legislation to amend the United Church of Canada Act. But in listening to some of my colleagues speak about the United Church, I am not a member, but I can guarantee you they welcome me as if I was one. I frequent Topsail United Church, the little church on the hill in Topsail, and I can't say anything but good words on them. What a fantastic, fantastic community group. They have a men's club, they have a women's club, and it was only last week I was at a flipper dinner out there, and I guarantee you, for $25, you won't get that feed anywhere else. They were fantastic. And they have pancake breakfasts, they have flea markets, they have afternoon tea. I just can't say enough about the Topsail United group. And in listening to some of my colleagues talking about this piece of legislation, how it would make it a little easier in terms of volunteering and in terms of other activities. And, if this is going to make them better up in Topsail United, my God, I don't know where they're going, because they are top-notch now. They are top-notch now. What they do for the community, what they do for everyone around, I just don't have the words for it. So I just want to take this opportunity to, we're supporting this legislation, and just wish the Topsail United Church all the best in the future, and I'll be there for the next feed.
The honourable member Mount Pearl Southlands.
Thank you, Speaker, and it's going to take a couple of minutes just to speak to the bill. I'm going to say I was a little surprised, to be honest, Speaker, because I never realised there would be actual legislation that would, I guess, tie into the governance of any churches. I thought, obviously they are standalone entities, but I didn't realise that the provincial government would have any kind of legislation associated to it. I'm not sure if the United Church is unique, or if there is similar legislation for other religions as well. Like, is there an act? Is there a Salvation Army Act, or a Roman Catholic Act, or a Pentecostal Church Act, or a Anglican Church Act? I don't know. There's obviously a United Church Act, which I didn't even know existed. So. Anyway, apparently it's just to make some changes in the legislation to, I guess, coincide with changes with the church itself, modernization of the church, and I guess some of the structure of the church and how it operates and so on, and just making some changes in legislation to reflect what the church is actually doing themselves. So with that said, there would be no reason, I would say, why we would not support that. They know what's obviously best for them and what's going to work for them. And if there's going to be changes in structure and terminology and so on, that the parishioners all agree to, and it does require a change to this piece of legislation, then I will certainly support it. I would say, Mr. Speaker, that I guess along the same vein as a couple of my colleagues, we do have a United Church in Mount Pearl as well. It's the First United Church. We have numerous churches actually in Mount Pearl. We have Our Lady Queen of Families, which is a Catholic church, a Park Avenue Pentecostal church. We have the First United Church. We have 2 Anglican churches, Parish of the Ascension and Church of the Good Shepherd. Our Catholic Church is Our Lady Queen of Families. It used to be St. Peter's Parish and Mary Queen of the World, of course. Mary Queen of the World got sold as part of that lawsuit associated to clergy abuse and so on. So we now have Our Lady Queen of Families. And the old Mary Queen of the World Church is now a Baptist church, Calvary Baptist Church actually. And it's a real neat little partnership there, because Calvary Church bought the church, but when it was Mary Queen of the World, they had a food bank, St. Vincent de Paul, and Calvary Baptist Church allowed St. Vincent de Paul to continue to operate out of the basement of that church, even though it's a different church, different religion, so on. We also have a Solid Rock Wesleyan Church, and there's also another church up on. We have Baptists and we have Seventh-day Adventists. So we pretty much got every Christian religion certainly represented in terms of churches in Mount Pearl, and First United being part of it. And the great thing is that they really work together, and there's actually an association in Mount Pearl of all the churches. So they will get together and do different community initiatives. During the Mount Pearl Frosty Festival, they have a ecumenical church service, and they take turns every year in having it in various churches, and then the various ministers or priests, or depending on pastors, whatever you want to call them, depending on the religion, of course, they will all take different parts, different roles in that service. They also work together with the community supper program we have in Mount Pearl, and that's providing 250 meals for people in our community that are in need. And while the kitchen that they actually use is at the Church of the Good Shepherd on Richard Nolan Drive, the First United Church and all the other churches all take turns in sponsoring the supper each time, and then actually work in the kitchen along with Scott Hillier with Coffee Matters, and they make the meals, and different people deliver them for people who are unable to pick it up. So, and as I say, the First United Church is part of that. Now, I would say that the First United Church, no different than all the other churches, of course, have been challenged over the years because numbers are down. And in a lot of cases, you go to church, of course, we all know it's either gray here or no here. Tends to be the trend, not as many young people anymore. So it does make it challenging for all the churches to keep going, to raise money and so on. And but they all manage, and First United, you know, they're like my colleague said about the Topsy United. Same thing. They're always having suppers and afternoon teas, and they have concerts in the church. Different groups come in, Enna Sisters or different entertainers. They have concerts and so on to raise money, and they do a lot of good work in the community, helping the poor and the needy, and as I say, working together. And so certainly I've had a long-standing relationship with the First United Church, and all the churches for that matter. I'm actually, interestingly, I'm Salvation Army by birth, I guess, but married in the Catholic Church, but I like to consider myself ecumenical, because there's not a church in Mount Pearl that I'm not in on a regular basis for one reason or another. And First United being one of those. So I'll support this piece of legislation. I would say it's my understanding that this is the only piece of legislation we're going to be debating today, and I think tomorrow there's going to be one more tomorrow. But I would say I am a little disappointed as I look at the order paper, and we have bills here for second reading ranging from 3 to 14, and covering a lot of different departments and so on. And it is disappointing that we're going to be shutting down on Thursday. We're not going to be debating all this legislation. Is going to die on the order paper. I'm not really sure why that is the case. But I would be remiss if I didn't raise that as a point of all the legislation that will die on the order paper. But with that said, that's not my decision to make, and I will support this particular bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister of Seniors and responsible for Newfoundland Labrador Housing Corporation.
Thank you, Speaker. I just want to likewise just add a few comments to the debate here this afternoon on the bill. And obviously the comments made about the United Church and its presence. So in the district of St. John's East Kittivity, we have the iconic Gower Street United Church as both as a building, as a facility, and as a congregation. For those who know downtown St. John's, it's the orange or red brick building right in the center of Queens Road and Gower Street. And it's been there in many forms over more than 100 years. It was a Methodist church before that in the late 1800s. It suffered fires and those kinds of things, and it's been rebuilt. But one of the things I just wanted to read out here and literally for the record, and sort of a description a self-description of the Gower Street United Church and its congregation. They say the people of Gower Street United Church are committed to doing right by Jesus' teachings, loving, serving, giving generously in our local, regional, and global communities. We envisage a vibrant and evolving community where tradition is honored, change is embraced, and injustice is challenged. We are dedicated to being welcoming and affirming, engaging participation of all, including people of any age, color, race, ethnicity, faith, gender, identity, sexual orientation, ability, marital status, family composition, and social or economic circumstances. And then it goes on to talk about its core values. But for my engagement with the Gower Street United Church and the congregation, and really all members of the United Church, whether it's provincially or nationally, I think espouse those elements. And I think it speaks to their congregation that they live that faith. And one example of that, and the member for Lake Melville spoke very highly and glowingly about Marion Party, who is a friend and colleague that I've gotten to know over the past number of years. And as a deacon in the church at one point, then the moderator of the United Church of Canada, which is a very exalted position in the United Church. She has demonstrated those attributes in her, certainly in her professional life as a minister, and then as an individual working on social policies issues here, both nationally and as well as provincially. And I attended the celebration when she was awarded the King Charles Coronation Medal, and the attributes accorded to her at that time were again quite glowing, and were consistent with what I just read out in terms of what the congregation Gower Street United Church espoused. And she said in her in receiving the award, that one of her awards, I should say, she is humbly proud to be a recipient because of my multiple faith and her multiple faith and leadership advocacy. So she's received many awards, both provincially and nationally, for her work as a member of the United Church and being a proud leader of her faith and of her congregation. So, Speaker, as the bill, as the Minister of Justice and Public Safety read out, it's an administrative piece of work, but it bodes well for the church that it is now celebrating its 100th anniversary, and the Gower Street United Church on the evening of May 27th is holding a public celebration, and people are certainly invited to attend that event as well. So, Speaker, with that, just to indicate I will also be supporting the bill. Thank you.
Seeing no other speakers, the Minister of Justice and Public Safety speaks now. We'll close debate. The Honourable Minister of Justice and Public Safety.
Thank you, Speaker. It's been great and heartwarming to hear stories from all sides of the House about the role of the United Church in our broader community. And I'm pleased with the support I've got. A couple of things that did come up. One, whilst the original bill did say colony, my colleague behind was correct. At the time, we were known as the Dominion. So in case there was any doubt about that. And to reference Mount Pearl Southlands, those other churches that are incorporated in Acts would include the Anglican Church, the Church of England, the Colonial and Continental Church Society, the Congregational Church Trusts, the Moravian Church, Presbyterian Church, Eastern Section, Queens Road Presbyterian Church, Seventh-day Adventist, Presbyterian Church Trust Board, the Bishop of Grand Falls and the Roman Catholic Episcopal Corporation of Central, and Roman Catholic Bishop of Harbour Grace, Bishop of St. George's, St. John's, the RCEC of Grand Falls, and the RCEC of St. John's. That's according to the House of Assembly website as of the latest link. I am delighted with the support that my colleagues have provided. I will take my seat and look forward to questions in committee.
Is the House ready to question? The motion is that Bill number 99 be now read a second time. Is the pleasure of the House to adopt the motion? All those in favour? Aye. All those against? Motion carried.
It's too contentious. A bill, an act to amend the United Church of Canada Act, Bill 99.
This bill has now been read a second time. When should the bill be referred to the Committee of the Whole? Now, the Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Speaker. I move that this House to now resolve itself into Committee of the Whole to consider Bill number 99, an act to amend the United Church of Canada Act.
And a second.
Seconded by the Minister for Justice and Public Safety.
Thank you. It's moved and seconded that I do now leave the chair for the House to resolve itself into Committee of the Whole to debate Bill number 99. It's the pleasure of the House to adopt the motion. All those in favour? Aye. All those against? Motion carried.
Order, please. We are now considering in the Committee of the Whole Bill 99, an act to amend the United Church of Canada Act.
Clause 1.
Shall Clause 1 carry? The Honourable, the member for
Bayvert, Green Bay.
Bayvert, Green Bay. Thank you, sir.
So I guess these are what quasi-questions, observations. There's an and this is really about an intersection of governance, since really the act is from what was given to us is from the United Church of Canada. And sort of my first observation, and I got two, is with regards to the changing ecumenical worship patterns. So what we're seeing in some cases where over periods of time you have churches themselves, the physical building becoming available, meaning no longer of use to that greater religious organization. I have a case in one of my communities that I represent, where such a church structure exists, and it's on Crown land. And I was open, actually, that the minister then responsible for Crown land would expedite that turnover of that asset and land to the community.
The Honourable the Minister of Justice and Public Safety.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think all I can say is that this bill is not concerned with that directly. Certainly, if the member opposite has an issue with Crown Lands, I'm sure if he were to supply, if that's not already been the case, the relevant data to the Minister responsible, who sits to my right, that she would be happy to see what can be done to expedite it.
The member for Bayford Green Bay.
Yeah, and like I said, the reason I raised it is because we're dealing here with overall governance. This is part of this intersection of governance between church and state. And like I said, it's cases that we're dealing with in some of the rural communities where this type of changing ecumenical worship patterns, and we're seeing it. The other one, again, this is an observation, and I was prompted to raise this by something I saw at the end of last week on NTV, and that was the search for Padre Nango's gravesite. And, you know, so we have a number of, like I said, in particularly, I look now in Tilt Cove, that community is about to be abandoned. We'll have a number of graveyards there. In my own district, I think we have somewhere between 30 to 40 abandoned communities, all of which have various sizes of graveyards, and some with some notable former residents of the province. And, you know, we're seeing people now come looking to be able to be taken to some of those grave sites. So I guess this would be more for looking at it both from a tourist side. This is an opportunity for genealogical tourism, which is now growing, and is something that the, again, like I said, that intersection between governance, church and state, that the province could potentially look at with regards to leveraging and expanding tourism market for genealogical tourism.
The Honourable the Minister of Justice and Public Safety.
Thank you. It's interesting because Gander District has a heritage of aviation crash sites, some of which are actually still active graveyards. The Sabina site, for example, not that far from Gander, is a well-known tourist attraction, in actual fact. There are groups from the town that go up there and maintain the site. I think they call it St. Martin's in the Fields, if I'm not much mistaken. And once they've got at it, that place is really quite beautiful. There is also the Czech crash site just off the trailway. I think these are all things that generate interest. I don't know whether or not there is enough research done to be able to say whether or not we have the genealogy that would be a significant magnet. But I'm sure my colleague behind me would be able to access research on that subject. And certainly I know from discussions with him and his predecessor, more so his predecessors, that anything new that will bring travellers to the province is something that they're keen to look at. But again, the intersection of church and state for the purposes of this Act is simply to facilitate and to enable. It is a slightly cumbersome but very well-documented route to establish a church and other entities through legislation rather than any other route. So, I mean, that's the best I can suggest at the moment. But again, the member raises some interesting, useful points.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions, shall Clause 1 carry? All those in favour? Aye. Against? Clause 1 is carried.
Clause 2.
Shall Clause 2 carry? All those in favor? Against? It's carried.
Be it enacted by the Lieutenant Governor and House of Assembly in legislative session convened as follows.
Shall the enacting clause carry? All those in favor? Against? It's carried.
A bill, an act to amend the United Church of Canada Act, Bill 99.
Shall the title carry? All those in favor? Against? The title is carried. Shall I report Bill 99 carried without amendment? All those in favor? Against? Thank you. The Honourable the Government House Leader.
Thank you, Chair. I move that the committee rise and report Bill 99 carried without amendment.
It is moved that this Committee of the Whole, and seconded by the Deputy, the Minister. It is moved and seconded that this Committee of the Whole rise and report Bill 99 carried without amendment. It is the pleasure of the committee to adopt that motion. All those in favor? Against? Thank you all very much.
Order, please. The Honourable the Member of Lake Millville, Chair of the Committee of the Whole.
Thank you, Speaker. The Committee of the Whole has directed me to report that we have considered the matters referred and have directed me to report that Bill 99 has been carried forward without amendment.
The Chair of the Committee of the Whole reports that the committee have considered the matters then referred and directed that Bill number 99 be carried without amendment. When shall the report be received? Now. When shall the bill be read a third time? Tomorrow. The Honourable the Government House Leader.
Thank you, Speaker. I move, seconded by the Deputy Premier, that this House do now adjourn.
It is the pleasure of the House to adopt the motion. All those in favour? All those against? Motion carried. This House do stand adjourned until 10 a.m. tomorrow.